It's good to see you guys, except I can't see you. You see me. So I hope that it's good to see me again. It's been a long time. To be honest with you, I've had a hard time trying to figure out the direction of this channel. Uh, since I've been working full-time at Dead River, um, for Dead River Coffee here, it's been just smooth sailing as far as keeping on the grind on that, and I've been having a ton of fun. But at the moment, I thought I would maybe tell you a little bit about how it's going, and maybe now that I'm 2 years into this job already, give you a little bit of this overview and expectation of what it's been like to roast at a production level. So stick with me. I know that was kind of a long intro. Stick with me. And I'm just gonna throw some thoughts out there. This is not scripted. And as I do this and as I let the camera roll, this will be just kind of a flow of thoughts. And I'm gonna roast at the same time. So I'll tell you what we're doing as we're doing it. Here we go. I'm gonna get our Nighthawk rolling. That is a Colombian bean at the moment. And this is a nice dark, this is a French roast, truly. And it's very popular. It is our only French roast, so that pretty much narrows it down. But it's probably our second or third most popular bean on the shelf and very consistent. Here we go. So like I said, this has been just a fun job for me. When I took this job 2 years ago, I already kind of had the idea that it would be. I wouldn't have pursued it if I didn't think that it could have been. You probably all know this if you have watched previous videos, but we sold our house in Charlevoix and bought a house up here to make this work. So there was risk involved. But we're here now, and I love it. It is everything I hoped it would be. So I'm just going to let this be a flow of thoughts, and maybe I thought home roasters who might be looking a little beyond, who might be using their home roasting as a way of building something of a resume, if you're potentially interested in growing out of home roasting and into something more production level, whether it's for a cafe that provides their own beans or on a more wholesale level or whatever beyond might be. So I'd like to start a little bit about like what my job actually is and what it has become. I guess let me paint a picture of what the cafe looks like and what that operation is, and then I can build upon what my role is in it. Dead River Coffee is a cafe that was established in 2002, but it was always a roastery from day one. It just so happened that the original owner, Theo, had allowed it to be a cafe at the same time. We sold beans from day one, and they were roasted inside the cafe, so it was a roastery cafe. So the cafe has been this place for Marquette locals to go to get coffee they know is roasted right here in town and is of a certain quality that they want. And I think I have done a good job of upholding that quality. And we've done a whole lot to make the cafe experience better since I've been here. And that's not just because of me. I think I've done a good job of making sure that the coffee tastes good, but we have a team that works really well. We have baristas who are well-trained now, who can tell you everything about every one of the beans that are on the shelf. And we have a good number of beans on the shelf, and they change sometimes, so they have to always be up on it. We have a fantastic cafe manager who sets the standards for those baristas, and we talk all the time, and so we're always trying to make systems that make the cafe experience better, or make the systems that the baristas use for their day-to-day operations better. So with that said, the cafe has been and continues to be the place where Marquette locals and people from out of town too, they'll come in and I think they get probably the best coffee cafe experience in the Upper Peninsula for sure. And that's no slight against anyone else. It's just that that's our thing. Our service with our coffee drinking experience, I think, is unmatched in the Upper Peninsula. So this is where people go. If they've heard about us, it's usually because someone recommended it because they like our coffee, but they come in and realize that the experience, the interactions with the baristas, or myself, or the manager, or the owner, because we're there all the time, is good. We pride ourselves on that higher level of service so that people who are maybe unfamiliar with some of the ins and outs of making coffee or what to expect buying coffee, they get the level of service they deserve so that it justifies the price they're paying. And that's not even to say we have higher prices in Marquette. In fact, we have some of the lowest prices to beans in Marquette. So that's another reason why we get a lot of people that come in and enjoy our experience. We provide a high value. When they're cool to the touch, I let them go into the bucket here. Got lots of buckets for beans. Like I said, this is our Northern Nighthawk, so this is our hottest bean that comes out of the roaster. Gas turns off at about 440 Fahrenheit, and we let it ride right up through second crack, just beyond 460 degrees. This is this washed Columbia, so really just getting nice baker's cocoa notes. Baker's cocoa notes, a little woody, just really, really rich. So 460 degrees gets that French roast nicely established. That alarm was just to let the operator know that you've hit a certain threshold where first crack is probably going to start soon. So we're nearing the final phase of roasting here. So I'm going to dump this into the bucket. We can fit 2 roast batches per bucket. So the cafe experience, I think, is pretty unique. I think our style, while it's deeply rooted in its beginnings, we could have at any point make decisions to alter the style to try to fit in with some of the trends we do see that are well established in the coffee industry, but we haven't. We've stayed true to the legacy of Dead River Coffee, and we're happy to do that. We wouldn't have it any other way. So with that, I think the cafe experience is wonderful. It's got a very cozy, comfortable vibe. And so you get to come in. The first thing you see when you walk in the door, well, one of the 2 doors, is our huge bean counter with jars of beans with their names, with their prices. You see some of the merch on the left. You see the counter with the register and the menu, and the bar with the espresso machine at the back of the bar. So the flow and layout of the cafe is such that a lot of people, when they walk through the door, they have to walk by all of our bean selections, which kind of sets up nicely a frame of mind for the kind of cafe they're walking into. It's the kind of cafe I would love to walk into as a roaster, as someone who's obsessive with coffee. I love walking in and seeing all kinds of coffee options. That's not something you see very often. Our Nighthawk here is just about finished. This is the second batch of 8 that I have to do. So we're at 457 degrees, 58, right around 60, 61. I let it go. We're at 460, 461, 62. This is our smokiest roast, the darkest always is. Usually I have a fan back here that helps push that all the way through. It is on, but it's on the lowest setting so that I don't get a ton of wind noise. So I'm just purposely not putting my face near all that smoke. Okay. Excuse me while I go load up the next batch. But my role has expanded a little bit. One of the things I think I'm good at, or at least bring good value in with this business, is my photography skills. I have some skills with video making. When I first got here, it wasn't part of my role to produce content for social media, although it was something we had spoken about. But January 1st of this year is when we really got serious about it. I wrote SOPs for how to create content that works for us, that also kind of lays out the language and the direction of messaging. We're kind of always keeping in mind who we're talking to when we make a video. Now we've got this structure to it that is pretty regimented, and it's working well for us. And as a roaster who had to do this myself for David Sargent Coffee, this music channel, for the Instagram that I had and still have, but I was doing it then as advertising, essentially organic advertising. I was putting myself out there, and I was doing it a lot, and it was keeping the ball rolling that helped me communicate to potential customers, right? And that's exactly what we're doing now. But when we have, I think we have half a dozen baristas or so, and the cafe manager and the owner, and wholesale partners, and loads of customers, whether they're local or not. We have a lot of eyeballs who are watching what we put out into the world. We also have our owner, Sloan, puts out a newsletter once or twice a month. And it's mostly a flow of thoughts with some updates about what's new and what's coming. And so we hear it all the time that the social media is working well. What they're saying really is, hey, I saw that video about that drink you put out, and I just really wanted to come try that. Or I read in the newsletter that Bob's was coming out today, the Bob's Beer Camp blend. I really want to try that. And that's been effective. So this system that I have that worked into my role now is every week we put out 2 videos. This is short form content. These are Instagram Reels and TikTok videos. But that has translated directly because people tell us that they saw this thing and they came in because of it, over and over and over again. And so when we wrote these SOPs for social media, I knew in the back of my head, this has a ton of potential to help us out here. One of the goals is to get our online orders picked up, because we do a lot of bean sales locally. People come into the cafe and pick up beans physically and walk out with them, and that's awesome. But there's a whole world out there, and I think we have nearly infinite potential to grow on that. So the social media has helped with that too. Not just with online sales though. I do some months of the year, I would say for half the year roughly, one class on a certain Sunday that we plan out, where I teach a presentation about the taste of coffee and why we talk about coffee the way that we do. And it's an hour and a half long, and we taste 4 different coffees. And I have made videos in the past kind of advertising this class that we do. And it's only, we can only fit about 6 or so people. But I have had people say, I saw that video on TikTok, and they drive over from an hour away or wherever it is for that class. And it's a ticketed event. It's not a free thing. So they are investing into it because they saw our messaging. So it's working. We've been told time and time again that it's working. So that's part of my role now, is I use the skills that I have with photography, with video, a little bit of my graphic design past definitely makes its way in with both internal and external things, whether it's little cards or paperwork that helps the baristas out or something. So that's been nice. That wasn't really something I expected to really develop into my role, but it has, and it keeps me having fun. So as a roaster, I get to do this, which I love. I get to talk about ideas for blends, for limited releases, and we get to, I get to be part of, really the core part of making suggestions on anything new that isn't legacy per se. But even the legacy things are not forever, because the coffee industry is based on an agricultural product. So nothing is forever when there are things like climate change and pricing changes because of many things, tariffs and whatnot. So I'm a core part of the decision making that goes in to what stays on, what new things get on the shelf, what blends are what, and so that's been really nice. Of course, the owner who worked here before she owned the business. We all respect the legacy of Dead River Coffee that has had certain coffees on the shelf to appease certain crowds, like for example, Harbor Girl and Night Coffee. Those are, well, one is a blend and one is not, but they're both Harbor Girl and Night Hawk. They're not Columbia Dark Roast, right? Harbor Girl is always going to be there. It's always going to have this similar taste to it, right? So we can choose what goes into it based on availability or pricing or what have you, but it's always going to be Harbor Girl. Just like Dead River Blend, it's always going to be Dead River Blend, whether things about it change or not. Nighthawk is always going to be Nighthawk, whether it's a Columbia Dark Roast or anything else we could imagine roasting dark. So my role has been fun. I really enjoyed being that anchor in what we purchase from our importers, what we taste. It's been just really nice laying out that expectation and delivering. All right. So social media has been awesome. I mean, for us, it has been a helpful tool. I'm not going to call social media awesome as a blanket statement. But I have fun taking photos. I'm a photographer, and that's a big passion of mine. I have fun making videos with the baristas, and they have fun making videos too. They come to me with suggestions all the time. And so it's not just me making a new idea every other day. They come to me and we make content that fits us. We really don't, I mean, it's not that we even try not to, but it's not in our nature to chase trends, because there's a lot of that in like the social media world of the food service industry, coffee for sure. We could just go on TikTok and look at the newest trends and just try to slide right in, and they probably do fine. But I think we do a good job of messaging who we are naturally and organically. So sometimes we make videos that maybe don't feel trendy, but we're okay with that. We like the way we message. We think it's authentic. That's important to us. When you come into the cafe and have a discussion with us about our products or our drinks or our process or where we get our beans or whatever it is, it's an authentic conversation. Because every one of the baristas has the ability to have those deeper level conversations, and you make a nice connection and a nice memory with the place you visited. I think that's missing in a lot of the world today, with businesses or otherwise, but especially in coffee, because there's a lot of the supply chain kind of lost or forgotten about with other businesses. But I think we do a good job of making sure that from the farm to the importer to the purchaser, which would be us as a roaster, to the barista, and then to the customer, we pass on as much information as we can. And so then we take it upon ourselves to be educated, so that if the customer does have a question about what does honey process mean, that we can answer that with authenticity and confidence and be right about it. I think that's a valuable thing that you can't get in a lot of other places. I'm going to get the next night talk going. how has the roasting been? You know what's interesting about that is I mentioned earlier that we stopped roasting in the cafe earlier this year. And that sounds a little scary, and it was a scary decision to make. However, that roaster that was in the cafe, it is still there, um, was just very old. I mean, it was the original roaster in 2002. It had a tendency to ignite some fires from time to time. It had consistency issues. And that's just the nature of trying to do production roasting on a smaller system. Back-to-back roasting was not always consistent. So we made the decision to disconnect the gas line, unplug the power, and a customer of ours, a regular, shout out to Woody, he gave us the idea and ultimately fastened a tabletop to the top of the cooling tray of that roaster. So instead of unplugging it and letting it be this thing that kind of just collects dust in the corner of a room somewhere, it's a central table that people can sit at and enjoy coffee at and interact with. People can pull the levers and pull the dryer out. And, I think we made the best decision we could because at the same time, spending more time roasting on this allows me to be more productive. So being more productive leads into the next part of how this role has changed a little bit. It wasn't necessarily that I was the wholesale manager right away, but it became quickly part of my job to manage wholesale accounts, and that has grown too, for sure. So there's a cafe in town, Donkers, that purchases our Nicaragua beans, and we allowed them to come into the cafe, and we invited them in to sit down and test out some coffees that weren't even on our shelves yet. We were prototype roasting some samples that we thought could fit their needs, and so we sat them down and I think we tasted 3 or 4 different coffees that weren't on our shelf, but we were confident that we liked and that they could like, and they ultimately chose an organic Nicaragua that is now on our shelf, so that if someone has coffee at their diner, their restaurant, they can ask and they're told to come down to Dead River Coffee because we sell those beans. Now, we also provide them 12-ounce bags of those beans, and so it just works really nice both ways. At the same time, we provide coffee to other cafes as well. Super Bloom and Gladstone, they purchase a couple different of our blends, and they're now starting to do some of our retail bags, which is nice. And then we have a couple different retail spaces and diners and cafes that are around the UP, but also downstate as well, that carry espresso, our dark roast, and some of them carry a good wide range of our beans, because we are one of the only places where you can kind of get your pick of 6, 7, 8 different beans on a wholesale level. And we have, I think, fairly low wholesale thresholds too, which is valuable to them. And so this role has become one that I take orders via text, via email, via phone call, and so I'm managing that constantly. I'll get it on the weekends, and I'll get it throughout the day at any point, and so it goes into a spreadsheet, and I manage who's getting what, when, what it is, and it just becomes this living schedule, which is pretty cool. And that's one of the ways that we've been able to kind of hoist up this business a little bit more. Because people are seeing us on social media. People are getting word of mouth. Oh, you go to KC Bonkers near Houghton, west of us, and people go into there and go, oh, where do you get your coffee? And he has the retail bags. You can say, right there. If you travel east of us about an hour, you can go to Dead River Coffee and get this yourself. Or people go to Gladstone and Super Bloom. People go to any number of the cafes that we ship coffee to downstate, they point to us too, which is really nice. So when they win, we win, and vice versa. We all grow together. So I guess while I can, I'll talk a little bit about some of what's been new for us and what we've been working on. I mentioned earlier that we work with importers, plural, because we now have started working with a Guatemala importer, and he has a farm in Guatemala where his wife lives full time. I believe he lives there at some parts of the year, but comes to the States to connect Guatemalan farmers with smaller Michigan roasteries. And his business name, I think, is Mi Guate Select, M-I Guate Select. So specifically, his business model is making this network of smaller Guatemalan farms and connecting them with appropriately sized Michigan roasteries. And so he's got these regions of Guatemala that he works with. I think he said it was 9 different growing regions, and I think it was up to 11 or 12 farms last we talked to him. And then he's got these regions in Michigan that he sells to. So we fit nicely into a region that he wanted to grow into a little bit. And so we talked earlier this year and started carrying a very nice classic Weiwei Tenango. And that's become a staple. Very quickly became a staple. I think people connect with Guatemalan coffee a lot. I know I certainly have had my fair share of great Guatemalan coffee. And this one is no exception. So the Guatemala that's on our shelf for Dead River Coffee now is nice and rounded. It's smooth. It's got really nice cocoa foundation to it as far as taste notes goes. And beyond cocoa, a little bit of nuttiness, but not like peanuts, more like a subtle cashew or walnut, something like that. And then beyond that, if you're gonna find any more sweetness or any more tartness, we kind of pick up this kind of raisin taste note to it. So cocoa, cashews, and raisin, or something in that world. I think it's really nice. And so the Guatemala has done really well. And people enjoy hearing about our more direct connection with that farm and how that import situation works. So I think it's really a more unique scenario where typically you have this barrier of roasters who have bigger importers that they solely get their beans from, which is what we were doing, and there's really benefits to that. But there are also roasters who pride themselves on sourcing from direct trade primarily or solely or just when they can. And this is a scenario where someone approached us with a pretty viable option for getting our feet wet in that kind of world, and we've been enjoying that. He also has made it pretty easy for us. On top of that, November has been great. We released Bob's Beer Camp Blend, like I talked about earlier. That is a half and half mix of the Guatemala that I was just talking about with the Ethiopia Sidamo. That cocoa still comes through nicely, but that Sidamo roasted lightly brings in this almost strawberry-like quality to it. We were tasting it and going back and forth on, oh man, it kind of tastes like pie. Like there's this pastry quality to it, and it tastes kind of like cooked strawberries, like baked strawberry pie or something like that. And that really resonated. We couldn't get away from that, and that's how we advertised it. Last year, Bob's Pure Camp Blend did really well. This is a blend we release for hunting season, for deer season. And so obviously today being November 17th, that means that hunting season just started. And so the lead up to that is when people really purchase coffee for deer camp, right? So we released a month ago today-ish, and people were really, really excited. We get phone calls asking, hey, when's Bob's releasing this year? And we got those this year. So we released it, I think, a little bit earlier than previous years. Reception's been well. People are loving it. We're loving it. I have some at home. We brew it at the cafe and keep checking on it. It's been nice. And then Holiday Blend will release in December. That's going to be a similar blend to last year as well, where we take the Bob's Deer Camp blend, we tweak that roast profile a little bit. Last year we went a little bit darker with it, and I suspect again we'll get a nice profile out of taking this cooked strawberry cocoa thing, going a little bit darker, because I think if we can still maintain some of that sweetness, there will be a nice kind of duality of that richness from the Guatemala that goes a little bit darker with the sweetness from the Ethiopia. So I'm excited about Holiday Blend coming very soon. And then 2026, man, I'm excited. We've got an Ethiopia Yirgacheffe on contract that I can't wait. After Holiday Blend in January, we're going to start rolling with. The importer is telling me that the way they roasted it, they taste honey, peach, and pomegranate. Typically, we get these notes from them. We do our own roasting, and we're in the ballpark, but usually land on some different specific notes. But that sounds like a nice brightness. That sounds like a nice sweetness. I'm excited. So I guess stay tuned. If you like this format of video, leave a comment below. If you have questions, this is something that I can do from time to time. I can answer them on the next video. If you miss the Coffee Anywhere videos, let me know, because I've been wanting to do them. I've just been trying to work some technical things out with that. I have a lens on right now that replaced another lens that worked really well for that style of video, but this lens doesn't, so I have some options, but I put that on the back burner this year just because it wasn't perfect. But I could go back to that if you guys like the Coffee Anywhere, traveling, doing photography, and making coffee style videos. And I also could kind of condense those and kind of make the focus a little more coffee oriented, if that sounds interesting to you. Or we can talk more about the industry. So you let me know. Drop a like in the video, I'd appreciate it. If you feel like you want to see more of this content, subscribe to me, because that lets me know that this is content worth making. I'm sorry that it's not more frequent, but you know, it is on the backside of me doing the full-time gig here. And I still have other things like a family at home. I got 2 kids, I got pets, I've got a photography club that I meet with on a monthly basis, and you know, just things going on. So, and I'm sure you've got things going on. So I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys next time, whenever that is. See ya.